When the going gets tough, the tough get going. I know it's not exactly Shakespeare, but then he never saw a game of rugby league in his life. Today, it really is do or die for Hull FC. They've got caught up in the relegation battle, and Bradford Northern are on the way out of it. They need the 2 points today. Brian Blacker, centre, is out, despite the fact that he's declared himself fit. Noel Cleal deciding he doesn't want to risk his centre. Blacker obviously would much rather be out there this evening.
Obviously, yeah, I mean, it's a very important fixture for us tonight, and it was a bit of a blow not to be selected or to be ruled out through injury once again. Like,
you wanted to play, though. It was Noel Cleal who made the final decision, wasn't it?
It was the physio and the doctor that actually made the decision, and Noel went along with them.
And it's actually a fracture of the bone around the sinus.
It's a fracture of the sinus, yeah, not of the cheekbone. Yeah.
The game itself, you already touched on it. It's important. It's vital.
It's essential for us today. It gives us an impetus to go on for the rest of the season, and if we lose, you know, it's really backs to the wall. But if we do get a win tonight, it's you know, it's no shame in what we do. We can go forward quite easily from here.
You've never really touched the heights of the Premiership victory of last season, but still to find yourself in this situation, it's ludicrous, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yeah, I mean, we did lose one or two key players, obviously, and that perhaps had a little bearing at the start of the season, but I think basically what's been the problem is we just haven't been able to cope with the amount of injuries that we've had. You know, we haven't been able to field the same side 2 weeks running, and it always has an effect on the team.
There's been more and more emphasis on Greg Mackey to create the play, and sides have been putting more and more emphasis on stopping him as well. If you like, you've perhaps been a bit predictable.
Yeah, I would imagine we have probably been a little bit predictable. We hope to put a change to that, and added a few different aspects to his game now, and obviously Greg's a big influence on the side, and other sides have picked up on that and trying to stop him now, and obviously he isn't getting the freedom that he had 12 months ago, but we're out to change things, and I'm sure things will come right.
Ian Stevens had a promising debut on Boxing Day, and it looks like he has the ability to make the breaks, find the gaps, make the breaks, and perhaps take some of the pressure off Greg in a way.
Well, I mean, let's hope so. I mean, as I said, it was on his debut, and an impressive game it was. I don't think we can read too much into it, you know, too early on and put too much pressure on the lad. Certainly had a good game, and we all hope that he can keep that going. He's very quick and can certainly spot an opening. And if he does take a bit of pressure off Greg and ease the forwards in and give the backs a bit of a running chance, then all well and good.
Mind you, we're at Odsall, and we haven't even mentioned the forwards yet. Any game at Odsall with Northern, it all bases around the forwards, doesn't it?
Generally speaking, yeah. I mean, they are a very big pack, and as everybody knows who comes to Bradford, like, it's always a hard game here at Odsall. And I don't think in all the times that I've played rugby league, I don't think I've ever won at Odsall apart from when I was an amateur. So you know, it's an enormous task really that's facing the lads tonight, and to come out with 2 points tonight would be a very good effort.
The secret is to get their forwards moving and running around across the pitch. That's the secret. It's not that easy to do.
That's right. I mean, obviously that's what his game plan is to do to start off with, is to try and move their forwards about. They are a big robust set of forwards, and move them about and get a bit of field position for themselves. But as you say, it's never easy here at Bradford, and things don't always go to plan. You know, we're going to have to maybe play a little bit more off the cuff rather than 2 set patterns tonight, but I'm sure things will come all right for us tonight.
The chips are down, you've got to do it.
Exactly.
David Hobbs, the former Bradford Northern coach, leads the side out onto the pitch. Now, of course, working under Peter Fox. The Bradford Northern side today at fullback, Roger Simpson. Number 2, Henderson Gill. 3, Darryl Shelford. 4, Steve McGowan. 5 is Richard Francis. 6, Tony Marchant. 7, Neil Summers. 8, Paul Gratian. 9, Brian Noble. 10 is John Hamer. 11 is David Hobbs. 12, Paul Medley. 13, Carl Fairbank. The subs, David Cooper and Craig Richards. With me, as always, co-commentator Jim Campbell. And Jim, you just need to look at that side and see that it is a really big pack.
As usual, Bradford producing a very formidable pack of forwards, and tonight's really a vital fixture for both teams. Bradford are coming hot on the heels of Hull FC, and Hull really must produce a win. Nothing less will do.
Well, the side coming out now will know that, led by Greg Mackey. They line up with Richard Gay wearing 1. 2 is Andrew Mighty, 3 Gary Nolan, 4 David Ronson, 5 Neil Turner, 6 Ian Stevens, 7 Greg Mackey, 8 is Peter Spring, 9 Mike Dixon, 10 Mark Jones, 11 Ian Marlowe, 12 Russ Walker, 13 John Sharp, and the substitutes Paul Harrison and Lee Jackson. Changes are plenty in there, the big one being Michael Dixon in for Jackson.
Well, I think Noel Fields done it more than anything really to give hooker Lee Jackson a bit of a kick up the backside, because his form wasn't really the form we expect from Great Britain's test hooker. I think that positional switch will perhaps G Jackson up a bit. Mike Dixon is a capable hooker in his own right, of course.
Jackson needed now, he waves play away, and immediately the kick-off goes down towards Russ Walker, and that's an awkward bounce for Walker, and he just manages to keep his foot in play. It's awkward down there on those turf pallets that they have to play on as Andrew Mighty tries to make some yards, and immediately early on Hull are penned down near their own half as Michael Dixon comes away and burrows a good 10 yards away from his line. Just relieves the pressure a little bit for Hull as Ian Marlowe makes his first runs straight at Medley and through him as well, and makes a few yards extra, gets to the 25. John Sharp acting halfback, Mackey will kick, doesn't need to. The referee's whistle sounds, offside against Bradford Northern, and that might have just settled a few nerves.
The referees in the English game generally tend to clamp down early on, and there we saw there the referee moving in for an offside. I think there will, as you said, be a lot of nerves in tonight's game because it's taking on the status of a relegation battle.
It's almost traditional in rugby league now. You have the first early drive from the defending side and then offside on the 5th or 6th tackle against the attacking side as Hull drive in through Stevens, and now Mackey sets Jones on a run, and Jones coming on at real pace for a change. A short ball from Mackey. Now Dixon is acting halfback to Mackey again. Mackey gets Spring away, Spring turns, back to Mackey, he'll spread it wide to John Sharp, a poor ball to Sharp though he had to stop, and now throws an ill-advised pass, but Stevens sees the gap and goes. Stevens is through, he just got Simpson to beat, the support wasn't there, but an excellent first run from Stevens, and this sets Hull up in good field position now as Mackey looks for the options. That's Ian Marlowe. Marlowe still going, needs support, there is none. And Hull FC perhaps wasting an opportunity. Twice, if they'd supported the ball carrier, things could have broken for them as John Sharp tries to set things down the blind side with Richard Gay. Gay, though, quickly met, and then Stevens is caught with no time to move. And this is the last tackle for Hull. Gay and acting halfback now, Mackey puts the bomb up, and that's a towering bomb as well. Simpson doesn't seem to be anywhere near it. It's caught by the number 4, Steve McGowan. Very briefly a Hull player once, never actually trained with them or anything, but Simpson brings the ball away, and that first attack from Hull was promising, but no support.
There was lots of pep in it, you know. You could tell that they seemed to know what they were doing. They seemed to know there was some kind of move on. We've seen so many times this season, though, Hull failed to repeat good early form over the whole 80 minutes.
That's the second of the 2 props. John Hamer carrying away. It was Paul Gratian, son of Jeff, just before, as Hobbs kicks downfield and just avoids Mackey. He's charged down. Richard Gay takes a comfortable ball and now tries to set things moving, but he's almost caught by Fairbank. Instead it's McGowan who's up on him. So Gay just 10 yards inside halfway as Gary Nolan just drives in. He's in for Brian Blacker, who we spoke to before the game. And now Mackey spread things back inside to Marlowe. Marlowe runs at David Hobbs. 2 of the bigger men on the field clashing. Dixon, Mackey, out to Stevens, Sharp. Tacklers are up, ball back inside to Walker. Loose pass out, Stevens picks up, no he doesn't. And the ball's still going loose. This will be a scrum down as Dixon picks up and sees space ahead of him. Knock-ons in all directions. It should go in Bradford Northern's favour, it does.
I think Ian Stevens was a bit guilty of looking for someone else to do the job there. I think he should have pounced on that loose ball. That's something you've got to do in rugby league, get possession. And Stevens failed to do it there.
Stevens back on his feet as Summers wins and sends Marchant away. Marchant dummies and goes himself. Well tackled in the end by Gary Nolan. Summers again. Awkward ball. Fairbank misses it. It's picked up instead by John Hamer. He's bundled over. The ball goes loose. Hull almost regather. Another series of knock-ons. And this time Hull should have the feed. They do. And anyone would think they were playing with a bar of soap out there at the moment. Mackey, delicate sideways movement in the feed. Gay. Now there's a possibility of an overlap if he can get past Simpson. He can't, still standing. Eventually Gay brought down. As Turner overran him. Now John Sharp back through the play the ball area. Almost escapes the tackle. Gets to within a couple of yards of halfway. Stevens there fumbling the ball, but it went backwards. No, it didn't. The referee finally seeing a signal from the linesman. So yet another scrum down.
The amount of knock-ons you've seen, it makes you think the pitch has retained some residual moisture from when it was waterlogged on Sunday. I think perhaps that's what's causing the amount of handling errors we've seen.
There's another knock-on, but this one's going to be missed. The ball goes loose, and it looks like Hull are going to regain possession. They do. So we've had about 6 or 7, we're probably into double figures with all the various knock-ons in different directions as Mark Jones tries to drive away from the ruck. Dixon's in there, and Hull need to find that spark again. Dixon goes blindside. And still going is Dixon, eluding the tackle of Gratian, but the cover was there. Now Marlowe, short ball to Marlowe. Marlowe tackled well by the loose forward, Carl Fairbank. A loose pass by Dixon, well taken by Mackie. John Sharp now on the burst. Looks around, holds on to it as Hamer makes the tackle, and now Mackie's going to dummy the drop and instead passes to Ronson. Ronson's got the gap, and Ronson really should have given that. He gives it in the end, but it's too late. Mighty picks up, possibly offside, but it's not given, and the tackles eventually come in, and it's going to be a turnover anyway.
I think if I was Andrew Mighty, I wouldn't have wanted to take on the entire Bradford Northern defence. I think they'll really do need to use the kick a lot more in the 6th tackle. That's why at times they're made to look foolish, because they're hanging on to possession in impossible situations.
Northern then trying to relieve the pressure off their line, and it's Paul Gratian to make the run. Does look a little bit overweight, does Mr. Gratian. To be an effective rugby league prop, but who am I to know and say? And now they change direction and bounce this ball upfield. I think that was Summers it was. Richard Gay's got a bit of backtracking to do. Lets the ball bounce, perhaps rather inadvisedly. Finally gathers the pressure. The tacklers are up on him already. And Gay, predictably, is brought down just inside his 25. Gary Nolan will go from acting halfback. He won't go particularly far, but he does get outside that 25-yard line. Mighty now. It's just coming in field, and that's 2 tackles taken up. 20 yards from into their own half. Dixon that acting halfback. Short ball to Mark Jones. Jones runs at Gratian and picks up another 10 yards. Paul play the ball, gets away with it. And so Mackie chips ahead, and now this is promising for Hull. Mackie's got Gale, is it Ronson outside him? It's Ronson, and Ronson's going to score. A rare try for the Australian. And that was the work of Greg Mackey. Northern have talked about closing him down. They didn't on that occasion, and the celebrations are there for the Hull FC players. And David Ronson has had a torrid time here at Hull, finally getting away and showing a clean pair of heels.
Well, Peter Fox claimed if you stop Greg Mackey, you stop Hull. That's what Bradford Northern manifestly failed to do there. Greg Mackey had plenty of time to chip through. The bounce was kind to Mackey, went up in his arms, and David Ronson was where he should have been for most of the season. That was supporting a good break, and he went over for a well-deserved try.
Lucky bounce or not, it has to be said, Mackey had acres of space in which to field that ball, and it was Ian Stevens pulling the conversion wide of the post, so it's Hull FC 4, Bradford Northern 0. Mackey fields inside to Gay. Gay's got Sharp running on strong. Sharp just had to check to take that pass, and that took the pace off his run. Dixon, long ball out to Marlowe. Marlowe thrown to the floor by Marchant. Dixon again, looks blind, no one there. Comes back through the play the ball area, and Dixon, so difficult to tackle. It's a lot further than he had any right to, as Mark Jones now steams in. Straight at Medley and through him. Makes him a couple of yards more for those efforts as Peter Spring now has a chance to run, and Bradford Northern are caught offside, and the Northern fans are getting impatient.
I think the Bradford Northern pack in that particular situation were very slow to get back. Anyone who was expecting a downward forward battle isn't getting it. I think the game's much more open than a lot of people expected it to be.
That could be because Hull are dictating the game rather than Bradford.
I think also Bradford Northern's defence not usually as strong as it's cracked up to be, and the fans are getting impatient with them because of that.
Well, again, Hull FC have got vital possession inside the northern half and deep inside the half. A short ball there, the ball's going to go loose, and that was an attempted pass to Stevens, which went to the floor, but again Northern have got possession inside their own 25 as Creation tries to bring the ball away. And he's hammered for no gain. As Northern try and bring it out this time, and a half break shown there by Fairbank. He only just gets outside his 25 as Noble again dictates things. Marchant inside to McGowan. McGowan makes the break. Big, strong centre McGowan, and Mackey's got to get on him now. Space for McGowan to use, but a great tackle from Greg Mackey. And now Hull have got to get back, and Mackey is predictably enough penalised for lying on. And I suppose the professional would say that was probably something he had to accept.
He had to, really, because Bradford Northern looked to be on a roll there. For all his faults, Steve McGowan is one of the most underrated centres, I think, in the First Division. We saw there a sparkling run from the Bradford centre, and Hull really must keep a close, tight rein on these Bradford Northern backs, because they do have a lot of unknown names in there who are better than many people give them credit for.
David Hobbs decides against the pot at goal, and now it looks like the planned move into the little ruck. Ball goes loose, and here's Creation, but he's met well by Russ Walker. And also Mark Jones coming in with the tackle. In fact, it was Jones who really brought the big prop down, and now Hamer. Hamer also tackled well. The man bringing him down, but Hull have got to keep their line tight now as Medley tries to go within 5 yards of the line, and the tackling has got to be spot on. The short ball goes to Fairbank. Fairbank is inches short, and Northern are on the verge of an early reply to Hull's score. They're going to switch it wide now and hope for the overlap. The overlap's there if Marchant can get round. He does, but crossing has been given against Bradford Northern, and a lucky escape for Hull.
I think Bradford Northern look as though they're going to try and wear the fringes with some kind of wraparound move there, and that was a let-off for Hull FC, because whoever it was who missed that tackle really was going to get the early birds into a lot of trouble.
As it is, Ian Stevens gets the chance to clear his lines, and perhaps that's the sort of break Hull need as Peter Spring drives in. Dixon to Jones. Jones again at pace. Again it's Dixon. Mackey. No one running off him. John Sharp. Sharp still going. Makes the half break. Looks inside. Finds Stevens. Stevens cutting infield now. The gap. Gone away from his support. And perhaps inexperience showing there. Took the wrong option.
I think Stevens had glory in his mind there and just pinned his ears back. It obviously should have gone for the support.
Walker looks for support. Can't get the ball away. And he's going to get mugged. 10 yards from the Bradford Northern line. And he'll feel that as Ronson finds Marlowe. Marlowe's got to stand up in the tackle and look. No support around him again. And this is fifth and last. Now Dixon to Mackey. What's Mackey going to do? Pass is loose and it's picked up by Northern. That's what would have happened anyway. Darryl Shelford regaining possession. And Hull looking slightly short of ideas.
So we saw there how Hull FC support play was lacking. Whether Bradford Northern can do any or have done any better is another matter. The Steam Pigs get a chance to drive out from their own 25. There's no side better than that than Bradford Northern. And Hull a little too anxious to stop the Northern advance there. Just about, you could take your pick of any player who was offside there. And referee R. Smith quite rightly awarding the penalty in Bradford Northern's favour. So Hobbs lofts that one towards the main stand of Odsal Stadium, and Bradford Northern really in another advantageous position just inside the halfway line. John Hamer driving in there as his advances are stopped. Cyrus Walker, this is Paul Gratian, son of Jeff. They always find the Gratian in one of Peter Fox's teams. Now Roger Simpson, the full back, didn't really do a good job of cutting into the line there. He was doing one of his customary cross the field runs and didn't really make much ground. This is winger Richard Francis. Francis runs straight at the fearsome figure of Peter Spring. So Northern once again going through the half-backs, going wide. This is out to the second row forward, Paul Medley. Well, now what a strong runner Medley is. It's faster than some sides backs. And now David Hobbs raises an extremely high kick in towards Stevens' general direction, but it's a good job Neil Turner was back to clear up. So now Mackey runs out from acting half-back, a reverse ball in to the try scorer, David Ronson. Elses on to Russ Walker. Walker tries to evade the tackle of Gratian, but Gratian hauls the second row forward down to the turf. This is John Sharp going for the gap. Great running from John Sharp. He spotted that very well indeed. And Mike Dixon just manages to stay up in the tackle, but again a chronic lack of support for the Hull hooker. Means he had to rush his pass, and Bradford were quick to seize on that loose ball. Now Roger Simpson trying to cut through the gap, but he won't find any in the direction of Ian Stevens. So now this is David Hobbs trying to stand in the tackle, and I think the Bradford Northern supporters berating their side for lack of support play. Really not looking very imaginative in attack, you could say about both sides. He's on to Tony Marchant. Marchant dummies about 3 times and eventually goes back to Richard Francis. But Francis was put in an almost impossible position there.
I think this game is going totally against the grain, the way that everyone expected it to go. As there's a break from Marchant. Marchant's away now, he's past Mackey, just Richard Gay to beat. The pass is long, over on the far side to Gill, and Gill just bundled into touch. And dangerous moments for Hull FC, but I don't think anyone expected Northern to play such an expansive game.
Well, you always think Bradford Northern are going to go through the forwards because that's where the strength traditionally lies. But they have got some good backs, and it's good, obviously, for Coach Peter Fox to try and use them.
Well, a narrow escape for Hull there as Henderson Gill got within 5 yards of the line. Mackey wins the scrum, and now it's Richard Gay. In fact, Ian Stevens is going to try and bring it away. Gets to centre field, but only gets 12 yards away from his line. There's a short pass to Marlowe, who's met immediately by Paul Medley. And Marlowe's hurt in the process. Andrew Mighty picks up, and immediately Darryl Shelford wraps him up. And the dummy from Dixon, acting halfback. Dixon hauled round by the net. And a few oohs and ahs from the Hull fans thought maybe that was a little illegal. And now David Ronson getting nowhere, in fact pushed backwards. Last tackle, Hull have to kick. But they're not going to. Instead they're going to cough up possession, and Henderson Gill's going to regather. The turnover is signalled as Gill and Turner meet, exchange pleasantries, and Hull there showed complete absence of the kicking game without Eastwood or McNamara on the field.
Again, Hull are famed for a kicking game, and they're just not using it at the moment, and they don't, as we all know, don't have the best backs in the world, so I don't think there was much danger of a break on that wing. Certainly danger of a break though from Bradford Northern at the moment. The Steam Pigs on the attack heading towards the Hull 25. This is David Hobbs coming in, giving that ball on to Neil Summers, the much praised signing from Rugby Union that hasn't really achieved that much for Bradford Northern. So this is Cal Fairbank in his unusual role of loose forward, getting that on to Steve McGowan. Bradford Northern again going towards this comparatively weak side of the Hull defence where they have made some promising breaks. That was Paul Gratian. This is Roger Simpson. Simpson decides a chip is the best option, but Gay picks that up and makes a terrible hash of it in his in-goal area. And I don't think that was a knock-on. He did make a great deal of that, but I don't think Gay knocked that on.
I'd agree with you on that one, Mr. Campbell. Unfortunately, the man who counts is the man in blue in the middle of the field, and he doesn't. But Hull at the moment have lost all the momentum they had early on, and it goes down to their own mistakes. They've failed to keep the ball moving on the 6th tackle. In attack, they've failed to put the bombs up or put any pressure on that, the Bradford Northern defence, and in defence, Hull just haven't got the ball away, even when the 6th tackle has been signalled. As the break comes now from Fairbank, inside to Gill, the ball goes loose. Gill fails to regather, that'll be Hull possession, and now they've just got to get this ball away, run in 6 tackles, and then get a decent kick away. Mark Jones, tackling low, said it 1,000 times this season, that's the only way to tackle Mark Jones. Peter Spring. Spring still going. Dixon, Mackey. Got men inside and out, goes himself, he's met high, chest high apparently. And that That was the mighty figure of Gratian wrapping Mackey up, and he'll feel that as Richard Gay now puts the kick downfield, and that's high and it's going to bounce in front of Simpson, but it bounces kindly for the fullback. Simpson though gets no, and at last Hull have managed to peg Northern back a bit. A bit of respite after all the pressure they've been under, as Shelford goes nowhere and again is berated by the home fans. That's Hamer held up as David Cooper warms up on the touchline for Northern. Now this is a tremendous tackle from John Sharp on Gratian, bundles him over. Hobbs will kick downfield, and that's a good long kick. Richard Gay's got some work to do to get back, but he's going to stay in field. Picks up now, the tacklers are up on him. He makes half a break before Henderson Gill brings him down. Turner from acting halfback. Dixon again at the play the ball. The run immediately coming in from Ian Marlowe, and he gets a bit of space because the Northern cover wasn't in position. And that's what Hull need. They need a quick play the ball and then a quick run. It'll come from Ross Walker this time. He gets to halfway. That's 25-30 yards in 2 tackles for Hull as Mackey gets the reverse pass and then finds Gay, but he's met by the tacklers and the ball's gone loose. And now Northern pick up and Gay's out of position. Fortunately for him, Dixon was there to make the tackle. Medley running crossfield. Short ball to Hamer. Looks to get the ball away, couldn't do so because Dixon was in there. Now they set things moving as Summers goes on a wrap round, but it goes to Simpson. And he's met by Gary Nolan and Andrew Mighty. Show a bit of appetite for the tackle on this occasion. Short ball from Summers to Gratian, popped back to Summers, and now popped out. They can spread it wide now, Northern, as Hamer goes and feeds the short ball, but he's wrapped up, but there's a useful pass to McGowan from Paul Medley. Last tackle coming up though. Simpson goes himself, puts a grubber kick in. It's deflected. Richard Gay has to pick this up. He does so and stands up, and Marchant can't make the tackle, so Gay's going to get across to the 25. And that's good work from Richard Gay. It was an awkward ball to take. He got down in textbook style as Mackey goes from acting halfback. He's got pressure on him and he just holds onto the ball. Good tackle from Summers. Mighty. Again the tackle coming in from the Bradford Northern scrum half. Russ Walker runs. There's cries of back him up from the whole fans. Quite a sensible cry as well as Dixon now. Dummies to Jones and instead finds Marlowe. Marlowe looks around, still standing up, but eventually Gratian and Hamer haul him down. Mackey now shakes the kick and does so towards this touchline. And that looks useful. It is indeed. David Cooper is on. And that's on for Steve McGowan, and that'll be a relief for Hull as the scrum is fed. And the signal from referee as the break is half made by, looks like Simpson. In fact, it is Simpson. And Hull looking a little ragged at the moment as Northern starts to play things a little quicker, and Fairbank looks to get the pass away, but that's a useful tackle from Gay, and Fairbank makes a hash of the play the ball, and quite rightly I think on that occasion Gay's penalised.
No doubt it was interference of the play the ball. I think Hull, both sides' defence is looking very sketchy at the moment, but they're capable of, the lines look as though they're capable of being broken at any time, and I think the side that really does realise that and take advantage of it is the one that's going to go on and take control of this encounter.
15 minutes to go in this second half, and I'd eat my hats if I had one. If there isn't another score before the interval, as Northern set things moving, and they really have improved their play tenfold since the early moments when Hull took that lead through Ronson. They get things moving through Gratian. Gratian brushes off Walker as if he wasn't there, and Walker fires back in, but the pass was already given. Good cover there from John Sharp. Simpson finds Summers, who in turn finds Hamer, and Hamer's still standing before being hauled down. Good field position this for Bradford Northern. They're going to switch it wide. Marchant to Medley. Medley though tackled low and hard by Greg Mackey. So they'll have to come the other way. Summers going to wrap round with Gratian. He does so, offers the pass, doesn't give it. Has to run into tacklers as Fairbank got his run timed wrong. And this is the last tackle. Hobbs is going to put the grubber kick in. It's a useful looking one. Henderson Gill's running. Henderson Gill is only inches away from that. It shows the benefit of having such an astute kicker as David Hobbs in your side.
Exactly, and Hull really do lack a tactical kicker of any note. Someone who's going to take the pressure off them at the sixth tackle and put in little chips or little grubbers like that. And I'm thinking until they get one or until someone takes in that role, they're going to find it very difficult to win games against just about any side in the First Division.
Jones steaming in. Picks up another useful 10-15 yards. Now it's a turn of spring, stops and hands off the pass to Stevens, who crosses halfway. Mackey now, no real support outside him, he's got to look inside or go himself. He finds Richard Gay, and Gay shows the dummy, and Gay's away. Just that vital tap tackle from Carl Fairbank, an excellent tackle as well, but now Hull are on the roll. Mackey shows the short ball, the ball goes loose in the tackle, and Mackey there being a little bit too elaborate, a bit too flash, and Hull lose a vital possession.
It really was a great position for Hull. I'd say they just made a very good break and didn't capitalise on it. But at least there's some support for Greg Mackey, who must get the support play together and capitalise on the breaks they're undoubtedly making.
No yardage for Gration, so Rovers of Northern switch the ball wide to Simpson. Simpson shows dummy and then takes the tackles. This is where Hull will want to play this game with Northern tucked in their own 25. As Hamer puts out a short pass over on that far side to Medley. Long passes and Medley's there. Simpson picks up, he's got the break now. That's a useful tackle coming in from Gary Nolan. Looked like he'd been beaten, but that's the fifth and last tackle, and Northern have only just got outside their own 22 as Hobbs shapes to kick, and that looks like it is going to be perfect, and indeed it is. Makes you wonder why they bother with all the legwork when Hobbs can stick the ball down 50 yards.
Precisely, Hull really must put some pressure on David Hobbs, because it's like clockwork. Every time the sixth tackle comes round, Hobbs pulls Bradford Northern out of trouble. And I think 2 or 3 people on him would make life very difficult for them.
I recall Hobbs kicking Northern to victory in this corresponding fixture last season when Hull battled hard, but every time they got anywhere near the line they were just immediately sent all the way back by Hobbs' boot, as Mackey now looks short too sharp, turns and has to run straight at Medley. Dixon. Marlowe driving in. Dixon again, spring offering the run to his right. Dixon goes himself and shows that amazing acceleration from a standing start as Stevens now catches Ronson, who's wrapped up, the ball stripped. And the Northern fans don't agree, but I would suggest that's one of the clearest examples of stripping we've seen.
Well, I thought Ronson had actually lost that because of the force of the tackle, but the referee didn't think so, and as I say, he's the man that counts.
Well, I think you're actually right. I think somehow he's given the knock-on in Northern's favour, which is a curious decision, as there's no fullback in possession and play on his way, fortunately for Hull FC, because I'm sure Simpson was flattened off the ball then. Touch of the old pantomime season creeping in as the Northern fans jeer and Hull try and get away from their line, but they're under pressure. As now the referee awards the offside decision, but it has to be said, every game at the moment Hull just go through this really shaky spell, and they're having one at the moment.
Yes, they do seem to produce great form and score some excellent tries, like the one we saw at the beginning of the first half, but then they go into a complete lull and seem to lose all idea of how to attack or how to defend.
Well, a chance just to steady things down now as Mark Jones gets a chance to run, and he runs straight at Hobbs, gives the ball away to Dixon, and Dixon's got some space to run now, shows dummy, can't quite get the pass away, and the Northern fans were so convinced by the dummy that they were shouting for a forward pass as Mackey goes, and that'll be a penalty against Cooper, not marking up properly. The Northern fans hate that decision. I think I'll side with the referee on that one.
I don't think it's the decision they hate, I think it's the referee they hate, because he's given them some very etchy, some very debatable decisions in a few minutes, and look, they're applauding him because they like him so much, obviously.
In fact, the referee there didn't give a failure to mark up properly, it was interference in the tackle, so I'll side with the Bradford Northern fans now, because he might be making some decent decisions, but then he's giving the wrong ones. Referees, there's the subject. Dixon, Spring, shows the dummy, stands up, and eventually Spring is hauled down. It looked like him and Hamer were going to have a set two, plays it himself and goes, and that's good play from Peter Spring. I thought he was going to be more tempted to turn around and take a swing at Hamer, but he plays it himself again, and this time he overdoes it. There is such a thing as too much of a good thing, as Spring finally extricates himself. And it was good thinking to play the ball to himself the first time. He was getting carried away the second.
And no real support for Peter Spring either, so I think actually when he did tap it to himself the first time, it was wasted because he had no one to pass to and capitalise on the good opportunity.
Northern then chance to clear their lines just outside the 22, and this is John Hamer. And he's well tackled over on that. Left flank for Hull. Back in field, Summers, short ball to Gratian. Gratian again bundled into by Sharp, who seems to have an appetite for tackling the burly Northern prop. Noble, Summers, long ball out to Medley. Medley shows that little jink, and this time he's just held up enough for Dixon to prevent him offloading the ball. Summers lined, Hobbs turns to Marchant. Marchant's tackle, but he still gets the ball away, and it's Cooper now. He brushes off the first tackle, and Nolan looks injured, and almost a knock on by Francis, but eventually he's hauled down by Gary Nolan, and Hull just not making those tackles stick. And the most popular man of Oddsall at the moment is referee Mr. Smith, who's finally given an offside, and Northern elect to run it. Simpson coming back towards the middle, still going. Simpson is still going, and still the tackles aren't there. Eventually it was Michael Dixon who clung on. Sharp in danger of being penalised, but they play the ball and Marchant spreads it wide to Hobbs. Short ball to Medley. Medley still standing up. You can't let that second row forward hold on to the ball like that. Marchant now stands up the defence and goes. Desperate defence from Hull FC at the moment as Marchant goes to within 5 yards of the line. They go right hand side with Hamer. Hamer within feet of that line. The real pressure. Just 7 minutes away from half time. And here's the gap, but it's knocked on and picked up by Mackey. And again, Northern waste an opportunity within 10 yards of the whole line. As Mackey squares up with Medley. And I'm sure that's a smile on the face of Greg Mackey over in the distance, because it's Paul Medley who's penalised for interference at the play the ball.
Just preceding that moment, some terrible tackling there from Hull FC. From people you don't usually associate with bad defence, with one from Ian Marlow and I think one from John Sharp. And Hull have really got to get their act together on defence. Peter Sterling said rugby league's 50% attack, 50% defence. At the moment it's neither for Hull.
Dixon, Jones. Jones still going. Noble feeling the effects of that run from Jones the Steam. Dixon from acting half-back. So all he needs to do is occasionally show those runs, and that'll keep the markers in tight at the play of the ball and allow some space for people like Ian Marlow to make his run. And quite an effective one on that occasion. Dixon again, changes direction. Mackey, no support around. Richard Gay coming back through play the ball area. That was all rather pedestrian and predictable. So Mackey this time switches inside to Spring, who doesn't quite have the pace to exploit the gap as Dixon goes, tries to get past Big Jeff Gratian. And if he had done, it could have been dangerous, but Clifton last tackle is signalled, and now Mackey's got to put the bomb up. Just a delicate little chip, prize of offside from the fans as Cooper misses it and loses possession, and Hull will have that ball just 1 yard away from the Northern line, and this is an opportunity to get a second score on the board just before half time as Spring dives in. He's held up just a yard or so short. Going to have to be a quick play the ball. Dixon out to Mackey, long pass now. A strong run in from Richard Gay, but he's met by the tacklers. And Hull a little short of ideas how to exploit their field position, and now Gale loses the ball, plays it, the knock-on is given. No would suspect really that should have either been a penalty for interfering, or it should have been a penalty for Northern for not playing the ball properly.
Well, just about sums up Hull FC when they get near the opposition's line. They haven't really exploited their advantages all season. It doesn't look as though they're going to repeat that tonight. That was an excellent position.
Fairbank from loose forward makes the break. Fortunately, Ronson was there with the tackle, and now Mackey's going to be penalised for completing the tackle, or lying on in the tackle. And it's all a little farcical. That penalty is a bit unnecessary, but Hobbs won't be complaining as he kicks another 20-30 yards downfield.
So we've just got about 4 minutes left of this first half, with Bradford Northern going on the attack, but they haven't really looked much better than Hull. The support hasn't been there for the breaks, and when they have made them, it hasn't really come off. Let's see if they can produce anything in the danger area of the half. So Jeff Gratian on a settling run, Paul Gratian driving his side into the 25, and that was an excellent ball from Tony Marchant.
And Paul Medley brilliantly wrapped up by Richard Gay there, and now Summers tries to set things moving, and he again is tackled, and Gay certainly came in with a try-saving tackle. And so often you see Medley, the former Leeds second rower, step through those tackles near the line, but the ball's gone out long now over on that far side. Again, the tacklers are there, and LFC for once have got their defence spot on, thanks to Richard Gay, and they've seen through 6 tackles.
And they had to wrap up Steve McGowan there, otherwise it would have been complete disaster. And I think if Bradford Northern do score before the half-time period comes in, it's going to look pretty dicey for Hull.
It's impossible to tell who's who over on that far side. It might have been Shelford, the guilty party there, failing to score as Spring brings the ball away. I think Hull will be happy if the scoreline stays 0-4 at half-time. As Mark Jones takes a reverse ball from Sharp and keeps going, bowls over John Hamer. He'll be rather embarrassed about that, I should think. Short ball to Spring. Spring's got Sharp outside him. Sharp goes, looks for the pass, and well taken by Andrew Mighty, who in turn throws out a hopeful ball to Gary Nolan. And on that occasion, the handling had let them down, and they really should have just clung on to that and played it steady.
Andrew Mighty got a poor pass, and then he seemed determined to repeat that one to Paul Harrison, and really got to calm your handling down.
Simpson to Cooper. Summers, Medley. Well tackled in midfield by Russ Walker. Summers again. The run shown from Hamer. Well tackled, Sharp in there helping out as well. Ian Marlowe, the man who did the donkey work, was Noble, hesitant at the play of the ball. Finally goes himself, which we haven't seen from him this evening. The former Great Britain captain. And now Summers will kick. That might just be a bit long. In fact, it's 10-20 yards too long. He's lucky on that occasion to hit the speedway track. Rather tatty scrum, but John Sharp's taken possession for Hull. Mackey was on his shoulder if he'd managed to squeeze the ball loose to send the pass away, but I'll go this way with Stevens, and Stevens thought he saw a gap. I can tell him now he didn't. And that was closed by Hobbs and Marchant. And Hobbs is there again, moving off, play the ball very quickly to tackle Walker. Dixon shows dummy and then finds Marlowe. Marlowe pops the pass out to Mackey, but Noble was up too quickly for Mackey to send the ball wide. Dixon again, Spring. Again looking to keep the ball alive, which they do, and Dixon's going to try and escape Hamer. Unlucky there because Robinson got in his way. 6 and last, so we need to see a useful kick again, and Mackey's shaping up. And he puts the bomb up into that corner, into the box, and Cooper's underneath it, under pressure, but he takes it well, and immediately gets the tacklers as well. And that's good play from both sides on that occasion, as Cooper tries to get up to play the ball. Francis takes it away. Half tackled, job completed by Mark Jones. And Ross Walker takes a knock on the ankle from his own teammate there. Gratian cuts inside. Sharp again tackling him. As the half-time hooter sounds, on a half which has been error-ridden, to say the least.
I think that's probably because both teams have tried to play a much more expansive game than we thought they would do. Hull have just emerged a better side by virtue of that David Ronson try, and I think they really have got to get the defence up a bit and start putting some more verve into their attack if they want to break Bradford Northern down in the second half.
I think the winners will be whichever side sorts their game out and tidies it up. Hull have got the match there for the winning, but it's also there for the losing as well.
They have to respect the possession and the ball security. If they don't do that, I think Bradford Northern will probably get the half-time roasting from Peter Fox, and they'll take advantage of any errors Hull make.
Well, I'll start munching on my cap at half-time and leave you with a scoreline of Bradford Northern 0, Hull FC 4. The sides coming back onto the field. Greg Mackey leading out the whole side, and the substitution in the Bradford Northern side, Paul Gratian, who got hit a few times in the first half, taken off, and on comes Craig Richards. And if Chris Burton at Featherstone Rovers is the coat hanger, then I think Craig Richards could become the gallows, because I've seen people swing from his arm before. He does have a bit of a habit of sticking the arm in a little high.
Yes, his arm does occasionally go above chest height, I would say. As for the game in the second half, I think it's really entirely in Hull's hands as to whether they want to win this or not. I think they've got to cut out the silly errors and get on top in defence, and then I think things will pretty much fall into place for them.
Mackey then with the restart. It's deep, and it's Medley who gets his legs behind it, and then runs it out, and a little groan of disappointment because the Northern fans thought he got away, and now Richards' first touch. Big, strong prop, and he gets the ball away to Noble as well, who almost loses it, but now there's space for Noble to run in. The tacklers are around him. They've got to get low on these big men as Summers finds Hamer. Getting harder and harder to see these players, despite the shirt numbers, as Hobbs makes half a break, looks inside, and it's a useful pass as well. It's Cooper still going, finally hauled down. And an injury over on that far side. I think it might be Michael Dixon. In fact, no, it's possibly Greg Mackey as Simpson runs out of ideas and is hauled down by John Sharp. We'll guess again the injured player over on that far side is Ian Stevens, so no marks for recognition from here. Richard Gay picks up, and he's got Turner outside him. It's a poor pass to Turner. Turner does well to make the break, and eventually hauled down by Brian Noble, but Turner got an awful pass from Gay there. Dixon, in Marlowe. Richards in with the tackle. Dixon, Mark Jones. Mark Jones still going. Loses the ball. Simpson picks up. Mighty doesn't quite make the tackle, and now Fairbank spreads it wide to Summers, to Marchand, who cuts inside, and that's the wrong option, but he's still going as Marchand. Still going Marchand. Eventually Mighty makes the tackle. And Summers sets things rolling. He almost makes the break as well. And the early moments of this half suggest that we could continue with the comedy of errors that was the first half. As Northern bring it away, and Cooper knocks on, but it's picked up by Hull. John Sharp, the man regaining possession, as Hull shaped to make a substitution. Paul Harrison dropped for this game. The man trying to come on, as Dixon reverses to Marlowe. Marlowe escapes one tackle, turns and looks, no one running. Fairbank and Hobbs complete the tackle. Spring squares up again. And that's got the home fans warmed up a bit as the punch is thrown. And Spring is going to continue that. And we've got some entertainment on our hands. I think it might have been Carl Fairbank, or possibly John Hamer, who started that, but not the best place to start a fight. And Peter Spring's reputation is not one of turning down a kind invitation like that, returned the favour. Possibly came off a little worse from the incident. We have linesmen on the field, and cards are being reached for. So I suggest someone's going to walk, be it temporarily or permanently. So the referee was perfectly situated to spot that, and it's Spring and we think that is Hamer, and they're both going to sin bin, and perhaps they can carry on off the field. With a penalty awarded against Northern, and I think Spring then might have just taken a dive and let Hamer get on with it, because if he hadn't returned the compliment, I think Hamer would play no further part in this game.
Having said that, I think Peter Spring's one of these Aussie forwards who lives up to the cliche of never taking a backward step. He certainly didn't there. He really laid into John Hamer.
Jones there, first man in. Never really got the run going because he was too busy trying to hold on to the ball. Now Mackie sets Marlowe going. And he's dumped to the floor unceremoniously by Hobbs. Mackie again. Reverses to Sharp. Sharp at speed. But he's well wrapped up by Darryl Shelford. Gay to Mackie. Jones again. Tacklers are quickly up on him and fired up as well. And that looked like Medley. He was not got a reputation for that sort of dishing out of the punishment, as Stevens takes a long pass and Gary Nolan is stood up by Marchant in the middle of the field. Fifth and last. Mackie's in position for the kick, under pressure from Marchant, gets the ball away, and that's a useful looking kick as well.
Mackie did very well with the tacklers coming in on him there. Eventually that roll into touch, and Mackie takes a lot of pressure off his side. Puts it back on Bradford Northern here, and there'll have to be some reshuffling in the pack as both sides have lost the front row forward. Yet to see who's actually taking up the positions, as Bradford Northern could, not surprisingly, come up with possession, and Roger Simpson tries to relieve his side's lines.
Well, that had to be one of the gentlest scrums I've ever seen in rugby league. The two sides barely touched each other.
Scrum's not always a strong point of rugby league, and Bradford Northern making a handling error there. That's a knock-on coming at a very inopportune place for Bradford, because they've turned it right back on themselves. The handling errors that manifested themselves in the early minutes have shown no signs of going away.
A whole tidy, clean hill from this ball, because there's no loose forward in, and it's vital they take possession.
Looking a melee of bodies at the moment. From the position Greg Mackie's taking, looked as though Hull had the ball, but referee Smith obviously couldn't tell.
I think Mackie was signalling there was a Bradford Northern hand stopping the ball coming out.
So eventually Hull come up with possession. That scrum rather crooked, but no one's caring, least of all Greg Mackey, and that goes straight into the arms of Neil Turner, and Hull eventually ground that, but that's going down as a knock-on, which is fair enough, because that sprung out of Greg Mackey's arms, and I think Neil Turner did knock it on. There's a lot of doubt about that.
It seemed to take a touch from one of the Bradford Northern defenders. It was actually batted backwards, and then Turner really looked as though he was tackled without the ball, but who are we to argue with the referee on this occasion? Northern try and bring it away with Craig Richards. Well tackled by Stevens. And now Simpson. Stevens showing some appetite for the tackle as well. And the fans want interference as Brian Noble comes away. Doesn't get too far before he runs into Ian Marlowe. And Mark Jones was catching him up from behind. Summers to Hobbs. Hobbs will try the little kick. It bounces loose and Stevens has collected it. And the fans this time want offside. They're not going to get it. Stevens plays the ball and Hull again have an excellent position. Jones needs to hold on to this ball. And this time he does it. Richards the tackler. Walker to Marlowe. Marlowe squared up by Medley. At the moment Hull not showing any ideas, but Mackie this time is going to spread it wide to Stevens, and Stevens has got men running off him. Sharp though is met by Marchant, and loses the ball, and immediately Northern try and turn defence to attack as Medley tries to spring round the tackle from Mackey, and again the Northern fans are angry below us as Simpson shows. And in the end, I think the referee was probably pleased to be able to give some sort of decision.
I think eventually he's going to have to ping Hull for some of the interference they're putting in the tackle, because they are doing it. I think eventually the referee will clamp down.
Hobbs then to clear his lines, which he does so, takes play 12 yards into Hull FC territory. Noble to Summers, to Hobbs, short ball to Richards, Richards met by Sharp and then by Walker. Makes Aisha playing the ball, could have been penalised, isn't. Fairbank rushes off, the tackle, throws a loose ball out, and now Walker can get in there to gather, but instead they keep it alive, and Cooper's going to try and run at the whole defence. Stevens eventually makes the tackle, quite textbook fashion, let the player get round him before he grabbed him. And they come the other way, again Summers setting things moving, and this is Medley. But again, Hull tackling well, but Medley still gets the ball away, and Simpson now spots his opportunity, gets the pass away to Summers. Summers is going to be called back for a forward pass, and predictably enough, the Northern fans are delighted.
I'm going to be very pleased about that. An indication there that perhaps the Bradford Northern half-backs are beginning to spark a bit more. Marchington, Summers are hardly a match made in heaven, but they do seem to be putting some more moves on.
If anything, I'd suggest that, in fact, Cooper is going back to fullback. It's difficult to say whether it's actually Simpson or Marchant who is playing this standoff. They've been swapping around in there. And the pass there from Jones, and cries are forward from the fans. The referee brave enough to ignore their decision for him as Marlowe takes play on. Makes half a break, still going, looks for support. And the only support there was Richard Gay, and he was stood behind Marlowe. Marlowe couldn't find him. Mackey now spots the opportunity, gets the pass away to Walker, who in turn finds Dixon, but Dixon's got Cooper up on him quickly, finds Mighty to go back through where they looked like there was a half gap, but he's held up on the 25. He'll play the ball, and Hull FC again in good field position as Mackey puts the bomb up, lucky not to take a late hit. And now there's hesitation in the Northern defence, the ball bounces loose, and there's a try for Hull FC. The ball bouncing loose, and I think that might be Gary Nolan who's got there. In fact, it's Neil Turner.
Terrible mistake there from Henderson Gill. He got in all kinds of trouble trying to take that one, but good chasing from Hull FC. That's one of the first times, never mind in this match this season, that Hull have really chased the kick up, and they pounced on it with devastating effect.
Well, a simple textbook will tell you the man facing the ball should go for it, but Cooper hesitated. Henderson Gill was running backwards, the ball was coming over his shoulder, and he was always going to be second favourite for that. And Neil Turner can hardly score a simpler try this season. Ten minutes into the second half, the fans getting impatient with Ian Stevens' lengthy deliberations with this kick, but he steps out now, and this time he gets it right, straight between the posts, and a healthy looking lead for Hull FC at last. It's Bradford Northern 0, Hull FC 10. Summers with the kick-off. The fans finally getting into this match as Mackey finds Sharp. Sharp now thinks he sees half a gap, brushes off the tackle of Simpson, but is eventually hauled down by Shelford. And now Marlowe. He's hit well by Medley. Couldn't stay on his feet. Dixon. Mackey. Got Jones. Short ball to Jones. Jones, though, is held up. Nice low tackle from Summers. And now Dixon goes from acting half-back. Still going, crosses halfway. Sponson, Mackey puts the kick, and that's looking quite useful. It's going to go into the dead ball area, but it's going to hang in there. Turner looking for a signal from the referee, doesn't get one. Now gets play on as Henderson Gill knocks him off, and eventually the tackles are made by the two second row forwards, Russ Walker and Ian Marlowe. Cooper will be smarting from that mistake, which led to Neil Turner's try. Cooper, short ball to Richards. The run from Medley. Only one man marking up for Hull, so they couldn't cover that run. Medley plays the ball, Noble takes it and has to go himself. He's hauled down by Greg Mackey. Michael Dixon. Marchant. Hobbs looks to kick, pressure on him this time. Summers this time puts a little chip through, and this could be dangerous for Hull FC, but it bounces to Richard Gay, and Gay takes it. Brave work from the Hull FC fullback.
Superb take from Richard Gay there. Takes lots of pressure off his side, and now Hull have a chance to turn it right back on Bradford Northern. A win today for Hull FC would boost their confidence so much. The early Birds have a dismal record at Bradford Northern. They haven't won since 1987. That's 6 years. So Mike Dixon, little dart from acting halfback. That's what the hooker's so familiar for. Picked up from Rovers Colts and serving Hull so well at the moment. This goes out to John Sharp. John Sharp with a delicate little chip there, and Henderson Gill really under pressure. He was forced to back that away, and that's going to be a drop out under the posts for Bradford Northern.
This is something we haven't seen from Hull FC for quite a while. They're actually maintaining sustained pressure on their opponent's line, and they're forcing the mistakes, and the pressure's staying there. They've just got to keep doing this a little longer. Another score will come, and they can just relax that little bit as Walker gets underneath this one and drives it straight back. And Walker's still going. Walker looks around for support, wisely holds onto it, because Hull have got another 5 tackles 10 yards away from the Northern line as Greg Mackey finds John Sharp. Another strong run from Sharp, but Sharp throws it away. Richards regathers. And why John Sharp tried that pass from the ground, I don't know, but he's thrown possession away early in the tackle count. Jones is the tackle on Medley. Now Richards, strong run from Richards, tackled well and low by Mackey. So now just running round the fringe, Hobbs to Francis. Francis well tackled by Andrew Mighty. He's had one of his better games in a Hull shirt today. And Hobbs this time will kick and will find touch. He won't, because Richard Gay gets a nice bounce straight into his arms, and he comes away back into midfield with Francis up on him, and Francis makes the tackle. Gay gets a few yards upfield and into centre field as well. Mackey's there. First run from Marlowe. Marlowe shows pass and then goes himself. And surely that'll be interference. It's not given. Dixon, short ball to Sharp. Sharp will reverse it to Marlowe. Marlowe drives in. In fact, it's Peter Spring back on the field. We missed that. Spring finally gets to his feet, decides not to punch and disappear again. And now Stevens, can he get round Marchant? He can't quite. Marchant hauls him down. Hull again go down the blind side, and that's a little pass to John Sharp. Sharp looking around, and here's Michael Dixon. Dixon, though, is tackled by Summers. And this is the last tackle for Hull. Mackey's there. He's going to knock on, and that'll be 6 tackles for Bradford Northern. As Simpson brings the ball away, and Hull are back to making mistakes.
I think Greg Mackey was just so busy trying to consider his options there that he failed to do the most simple thing, and that was hold on to the ball. See the result, Bradford Northern possession.
Now that'll be a high tackle, and it could be Spring in trouble. Now the referee sends him away. To be fair, I think there were 2 culprits in there. And no, in fact, he is going to speak to Peter Spring. And the Northern fans are baying for blood. And it just depends what sort of mood the ref's in. He's only just come back from his 10 minutes in the sin bin. He could be getting his dirty kit off and getting the benefit of all the warm water. He's sent away by Mr. Smith, much to the displeasure of the Northern fans. Hobbs shakes his head before kicking for touch. And at the moment, Hull, who just for a spell were putting all the pressure on and making the opposition make the mistakes, are doing it all themselves now.
The concentration really is terrible from Hull. They just don't seem capable of being able to keep it up, as we've said so many times over the full match, and that's what counts.
Sharp there, tackling Francis. He's had a lively return to first-team action after his back problems. Totally seized up, spent over a week in bed. Some people's wildest dream. John Sharp, I think, was restless to say the least, as Richards is finally allowed to get up by Jones, and now short hands to Hobbs. Hobbs coming back in field, and Spring makes a bit of a hash of the tackle there. Perhaps too busy trying to make sure he went low. Noble, Summers, this is Simpson. Simpson jinking as he always does, and finally getting the pass away to Cooper. Cooper stands up Stevens and pushes him off, and now there's a break from Cooper. The tacklers have got to get across. It's Greg Mackey. Cooper just brushes him off, but couldn't stay on his feet, and Mackey managed to finish the job. But now the pressure's on the whole line. Marchand out wide now to Simpson, takes a poor pass. Another short ball to Medley. There's space out on this flank. It's taken by Shelford, and Shelford is bundled into touch by Neil Turner, coming across from the opposite flank, and immediately Ronson and Marlowe go across and pat Neil Turner on the head, because that was another try-saving tackle.
The second one, real try-saving tackle you could say we've had in this game. The first one was from Richard Gay, and Bradford Northern was just allowed to spread the ball across field there. And they do have some very strong centres in Schaefer, Shelford and McGowan.
The whole pack look in disbelief as they're penalised for not packing down properly, and immediately they're under pressure. And the break comes from Shelford. Held up just 7 yards short. And Walker struggles to get to his feet. There's an injured player down there. A short crash ball to Hamer. He's held up short. Marlowe gets to his feet now. Richards on the crash. Didn't look to have too much appetite for that. And he's held up a couple of yards short. A big lad like Richards should be piling on those occasions. As now Hobbs changes direction. Medley's going to go over. Signal goes up. And we'll check it is Medley. Indeed it is. The Bradford Northern second rower celebrates. Interesting to see the way the rest of his team just turned around and started walking back towards halfway.
Well, I think they realised it was a very simple try, because there was a gap there to be exploited. I think the Hull FC defence was too far on one side, too far on the other, and Medley, very strong running second row, will always take advantage of any opportunity that comes his way.
As Hobbs kicks the goal, there's an argument now going on over who actually scored the try. Impossible to see in this light. The Northern numbers should be easy to see, but we think actually we should have credited the try to Carl Fairbank. So we will acquiesce as Peter Spring, not the most popular man at Oxford at the moment, is substituted, and Lee Jackson returns to the fray. Kicks off, and we expect a lively start from Lee Jackson. No one likes being left out of the side, especially someone who's spent most of last season involved in the Great Britain camp. Medley's tackle in midfield, and now Simpson on one of his darting runs, but he is shadowed well by Russ Walker. Now the run over the far side by Fairbank. Noble again at play the ball, Summers. Medley. Now Hobbs set back, will kick. Sharp never quite got the pressure on. In fact, it's not even Hobbs, it's Cooper kicking. And the ball bounces kindly for Richard Gay. Takes his time before picking up. And now tries to take on Tony Marchant. With limited success. Jackson back in the fray. Mackey. Short ball from Mackey out to Mighty. Mighty's got some space to run now. Cuts inside. Perhaps Mackey should have Mighty should have shown his paces down the flank, but Mackey will set things rolling again. That was a high tackle. And Jackson pushes. I think it's Gary Nolan who's just taken the hit. Indeed it is. And Lee Jackson steps up and pushes him over. And Stevens is finding very quickly there's no respect in rugby league. The Northern fans disliking his lengthy preparations, but he'll step out now, gets it high enough. The flags go up rather hesitantly, and Stevens with his second goal has opened up that 6-point gap. It's now Bradford Northern 6, Hull FC 12. Summers with the restart. Mackey struggling to get underneath, it does so in the end. Long pass into Walker. Walker standing still, struggled to get any yardage here. Gets to within 5 yards of the 25. Short ball, Mark Jones. Jones still going as well. Another strong run from the Welshman. Sharp showing crossfield run as Marlowe takes a tackle from Richards. Mackey, short ball to Walker. Tackle from Noble. Jackson, only white shirt left. Reverse pass to Sharp, who gets to halfway. Fifth and last, so look for Mackey with the kick. Jackson goes himself and passes out to Simpson, and that is a mistake from Lee Jackson. He's done that a few times this season, taking the run from acting halfback on 6 tackle.
So anxious to impress there, Lee Jackson, really sacrificed the amount of team his ground would make. But still really did need a kick there to pin Northern back.
I would hazard a guess that anyone of acting halfback could make 10 yards on 6 tackle, because any side would be quite happy to let them do that much. As Summers again tries to set Northern rolling, and again it's Fairbank who slices slips the ball out to Richards. But Richards is the man who eventually gets it. It was Francis trying to shovel the pass out. Noble sends Hobbs blind. Hobbs little leap pass inside, but it goes loose, and that's picked up by Shelford. Shelford though looked for support and there was none. The Northern seem to be getting frustrated with Holmes lying on, but Summers again spreads it wide, and that's a rifled pass out to Simpson, who in turn feeds Medley, who wraps the pass back to Marchant. Summers, Jackson matching up to him, but Summers brushes up 2 tackles, and they need to get him now. He's got the pass away. Here's Richards, and now a chance for Henderson Gill. The inside pass, Shelford going all the way. Shelford has scored, and Hull FC there pay the price for some very poor tackling.
Bradford Northern were allowed absolute free rein down that touchline, and they took full advantage of it. Greg Richards linking into the side very well as a forward, and Darryl Shelford showing his strength and tenacity as a centre to force his way over in the corner. But you just can't allow any side as much room as that, as Hull did, down the flank.
And Noel Clear will be tearing his hair out or tugging at his beard or whatever he does when he gets frustrated, because that score was very much a preventable one. David Hobbs pulling his conversion attempt across the face of goal, so Hull FC retain the lead. It's Bradford Northern 10, Hull 12.
So Hull's inability to hold on to any kind of lead manifests itself again as Paul Medley drives this out towards the Hull FC line, wrapped up by John Sharp, with Mike Dixon and Russ Walker helping out. That's the substitute David Cooper. Made a few promising runs as Cooper. Richards driving in there, but the Bradford Northern front row man finding it difficult to breach the Hull defence. So Marchant's acting half. Terrible confusion there from Bradford Northern. Meanwhile, it's Marchant left to pick up the mess, and he finds himself into another 3-man tackle. Out to Hobbs. Hobbs trips the kick, but eventually doesn't, and sends that out towards Cooper. And Cooper looks for his winger Francis, but Francis had just overrun him by a fraction. That's come off a Hull player, so it's play on. Greg Mackey makes a terrible job of collecting that. Bounced out of the Hull scrum half's reach. Richard Gain mops up for the early birds. And it really is, as the cliche goes, stick it up your jerseys time for Hull FC. As we approach the last 10 minutes of this match now, Andy Mighty took down by Tony Marchant. That's David Ronson. Ronson onto Ian Marlowe. Marlowe driving in the drive from the second row. So Lee Jackson looks as though he's taken over attacking half. That goes out to Russ Walker. Russ Walker thought about passing, better he didn't. Would have been forward. Mike Dixon from acting half evades Simpson's tackle. This is on to Lee Jackson. And 5 tackles come around very quickly for the FC. They're going to have to do something with this. And Greg Mackey pokes that towards Henderson Gill, but Gill doesn't have any problems picking up, heads towards Neil Turner, and Neil Turner heads towards him, wrapping the strapping Bradford Northern wingman up. So again, Northern will attempt to run it through 5 tackles, and then presumably they'll kick downfield on the 6th with the boot of David Hobbs. Craig Richards looking for work. Noble saying get off to Mark Jones. That was very nearly very dangerous for the FC. Francis again overrunning, promising position. And Bradford Northern looking a little confused there. Tony Marchant was doubt what could be termed a hospital pass, seems quickly wrapped up by Walker. Now John Hamer driving in fresh from his spell in the sin bin. And that goes out to Hobbs, and Hobbs will, as is usual, lock that towards the touchline. That goes in the general direction of Richard Gay, and Gay takes quite a long time picking that up. Eventually runs towards the Bradford Northern defence. In that case it was the second row forward, Paul Medley, and Medley missed Gay. So now Andy Mighty attacks in half, and Mighty will decide to give his teammates a rest by making some much needed ground. And Mike Dixon onto Greg Mackey, and Mackey checks and waits and doesn't do the right thing. He should have passed to his support then. The defence was up very quickly. And this is on to John Sharp. And Sharp again pulled down by Northern defence. It's the 5th tackle again according to referee R. Smith. And Mackey launches a little kick there towards the Bradford side, and I was going to say that was needless from Mackey because it looked a very easy ball to catch. Made a complete hash of that, did Northern. And John Sharp with a superb drive towards the Bradford Northern in goal area. And Lee Jackson knocks on, but the referee has missed that completely. Gary Nolan was guilty of the offence. I'm surprised R. Smith missed that. Now this is Greg Mackey looking around for someone to pass to. He isn't really finding many enthusiastic supporters as the game reaches its conclusion. Hull protecting a very narrow 2-point lead, and Ian Stevens maybe dummying his way over the line. That's an excellent ball from Richard Gay, but from Neil Turner under pressure there, unfortunately losing it.
So the chance goes begging, but kind of not Northern where they want them. There aren't too many sides left in the league that can score from that range, but immediately Hull FC make the elementary error of not getting onside, and that takes all the pressure off Northern. As Hobbs gains another 10 yards. It's so simple, you know, the moment the tackle goes in, you've got to get back, and Hull FC failed to do it on that occasion as Medley drives in. Richards, well met by Sharp. Jackson helping out. Francis now sidesteps Dixon, but Dixon is quick to regather his feet and make the tackle. Summers, Hobbs on the reverse. The pass goes nowhere. Marchant though picks up, runs into the tackle, the previous tackle, and eventually is hauled down. The Hull FC have got to keep Northern far away from their line. That's a poor pass to Simpson. Simpson shows an elaborate dummy, but in the end it fools no one. Actually tossed the ball up in the air, Simpson, then before playing it, as Shelford plays the ball, and now Simpson will slot this one along, and Cooper puts in the short kick, and Ross Walker is quickly there to gather up, and now Hull have just got to play 6 simple tackles, just keep hold of the ball. And immediately Jones has lost it. The referee, Mr. Smith, has earned the eternal wrath of the Bradford Northern fans because he's given stripping and giving Ian Stevens another chance to have a pot at goal.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And tonight, Webster's Yorkshire Vicar, Bradford Northern Matthews, 13 Charles Fairback.
Time to make sure everything's right before he goes for the penalty goal. So Stevens hits this very confidently, and that sails towards the uprights. Immaculate kick from Ian Stevens. He really does look to be the answer to many of Hull FC's kicking problems, and he's kicked them into a 4-point lead. Bradford Northern 10, Hull FC 14. So the Hull FC fans below us anticipating a away win, but I think that's perhaps presumptuous of them, because 4 points in the biggest of margins by any means.
It's certainly a margin that Northern are capable of taking back, as Jones takes a simple ball. Needs to hold on to this again as Richard goes in strong. And Jones around the shoulders. Plays the ball. And that's Paul Harrison. His first play of the game. As Michael Dixon rather wearily trudges back to the bench after a substitution, and Ian Marlowe drives in. And that's a good drive from the second row forward. Jackson's acting halfback. Harrison again. Fresh running, and Harrison picks up another useful 10-15 yards. Fifth and last tackle. Mackey's seen the signal. Signals a bomb. And I think, in fact, that was a drop kick attempt, but it was one of the poorest drop kick attempts we've seen. But over on that far side, a bit of a hash of collecting it, but it gives the opportunity for Francis to run. And Mackey's quickly across to atone for his poor effort on goal. He's not the greatest drop kicker in the world, Greg Mackey. Simpson running across field. Tackles eventually coming in. Marchant, short ball to Medley. Useful pass, but straight into the arms of Gary Nolan, who buries his head. We'll just try and see which of the Northern players it is who gave that pass. As Jackson runs the ball in, it's either Fairbank or possibly Medley gave that pass. As Harrison plays the ball, and now Marlowe, simple chance to just run in. Time is ticking away. We've got less than 3 minutes left in this game, and as long as Hull play a steady, no mistakes game, the points are there for them to take. As Harrison drives in, and now this is fifth and last again, and Mackey goes blindside. Long pass out to Turner. Turner's going to take the tackles, and the turnover's forced, but it's forced right in deep near the Northern lines. Touch of desperation as Northern switch it wide, and Simpson's under pressure, and he's going to be tackled behind his line. And Hull have forced a vital mistake from Northern. They just need to gather this ball cleanly, concentrate on running it downfield again, and whatever happens, not cough up possession. It's a useful drop straight to Neil Turner. Turner's underneath it, gathers it safely. Now he's just got to cling on, which he does. Harrison acting halfback will go himself as well, and he holds onto the ball quite wisely. Jackson. A run from Jones, looked forward from here, but no decision from the referee. Jones plays the ball. Mackey now goes himself, looks inside to Richard Gay. Gay still going, loses possession, regathers it. Knock-ons awarded, signalled by the linesman. And Hull FC perhaps a little foolish there. They don't need to do anything elaborate. They don't need another score. It obviously would help. Instead, someone will feed the scrum, and Simpson will belt the ball downfield. But it's a poor kick, and Andrew Mighty should regather. He does, just. He's got Francis up on him quickly, but Mighty clings on. The seconds still tick away. We're into the last minute of real time. There'll be a little bit to add on. Hull just need to take the tackles, take the time, and the valuable 2 points will be theirs as Ronson drives in. Jackson scurries across to acting halfback. Short pass to John Sharp. Sharp's away, but he's dumped to the floor, and the ball stripped away. That'll be another penalty. Can't really see why the Northern fans are complaining on this occasion. As the hooter sounds, and Hull FC, far from impressive form, but they've done enough. A win at Opsall, never easy, and under this sort of pressure, it's a vital win.
Well, no victory is ever disappointing, and Hull got what they came for. That's the 2 points. Don't underestimate the importance of this win. They really had coming off a bad run of form. We're still seeing some of the old things in Hull FC appeared in this game, but it'll certainly be a great boost to their confidence.
Never really hit top form. They had spells where they put Northern under real pressure. But at this stage, with the bottom of the table looking too close to comfort, it'll be a tremendous relief for everyone just to get away a bit.
It really will help Hull pull away from the relegation zone, and particularly important as Bradford Northern are breathing down their necks.
The final score then, as the Hull players salute the fans, Bradford Northern 10, Hull FC 14. If ever a side had to win 2 championship points, I think these were them.
Well, we've had 3 losses, and we're backs against the wall today. And as Noel said in the changing room, we've just got to win today. And good result.
It wasn't the best performance Hull have ever put together as a team, but the first thing was you matched them in the forwards and you knocked some of their big boys over early on.
Well, they've got a very big pack, but that was to their disadvantage, really. I mean, if you can get the first 10 minutes over with and meet them at the advantage line and put them on the backs, they're going to tire. There's lots of room around acting half, and we exploited it today. In the first half particularly, we fell away in the second half, but we did the work in the first half, and I think that's what stood us for the win.
There were a few crunching tackles going in. John Sharp caught a couple of people, and I think Paul Grayson's role in the game ended from the moment that Sharpie dumped him.
Well, I think John had his eyes on Grayson. He's a big lad. He's like his dad. I think he's about twice as big as his dad. He's a difficult man to put down, and I think that was John's mission tonight, was to hit him, and John did exceptionally well.
There were still a lot of errors in Hull's game, but they were errors near the northern line, so they're not as costly.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. If you make an error 20 yards from your own line, it's a killer. I think we gave away a penalty at a scrum on our own line, and they scored from it, which is you just can't do. And but luckily we kept the errors in their half. You're going to make a few errors if you try and slip a few balls, but you do them at the right time, and you can get away with it.
Was it me, or was the support play actually better today?
The support play was better today. It's something we've been working on all week. We do tend to go in 1s and 2s sometimes. Myself, Jonesy, we're new to the game really. You know, we need to get a bit of support, and it was something we worked on, and it came off today.
When we talk about the errors, it seemed that again the ball was going down with final passes, not sort of 10-20 yards away, but with
I
the
think
final
if you make an error on the fifth path, trying to get it out, you're near their line, that's acceptable, I think.
All in all, this is a point from which to relaunch the season, isn't it?
Well, every match is, as I say, you take it on its merits. We're going to have a good drink tonight, and then it's Warrington on Sunday, and we'll start again from then. It's a good confidence booster today, and I think we needed it.
Well, the going did get tough, and on this occasion, Hull showed that the tough on this occasion did get going as well. Credit must go to the forwards. It was they who won this battle. They matched those big Bradford Northern pack players stride for stride, and credit also to Lee Jackson. Dropped for this game, yet he gave his players man of the match to his replacement, Michael Dixon. Takes a big man to do something like that, and Hull FC seem to be back on the right road.